In the shadowed heart of the Pegasus Galaxy, where the lost city of Atlantis hummed with the faint pulse of dormant ancient power, Lieutenant Colonel John Sheppard gripped the edge of the control room console. The expedition had been grinding through another tense week scant, ZPM power rationed for shields, jumper patrols, probing for Wraith activity, and McKay's endless complaints about resource scarcity echoing off the crystalline towers. Alarms blared suddenly, red light strobing across the gate room as the Stargate's chevron spun without a dialed address. Unscheduled incoming, Weir's voice cut through the chaos from the upper balcony. Raise shields. Security at the gate. The event horizon erupted in an unstable kawoosh, blue ripples stabilizing into a shimmering puddle. No MALP probe preceded it. No IDC code pinged the system. From the wormhole stepped a figure unlike any they'd encountered, clad in sleek red and gold armor that gleamed under the gate's azure glow, thrusters winding down as it landed with mechanical precision. Repulsors hummed faintly, scanning the armed Marines who leveled P-90S and Zatnik tails. Whoa, easy there, jarheads. A modulated voice crackled from the helmet, laced with wry sarcasm. Tony Stark, Iron Man, not here to suck your life force or sell timeshares. Sheppard descended the stairs, hand hovering near his sidearm, eyes narrowing at the intruder's casual hover. Marines formed a perimeter, Rodney McKay already tapping furiously at a laptop interface nearby, muttering about energy spikes off the charts. Dial origin trace? Sheppard barked at Chuck at the DHD console. Negative, Colonel, no point of origin match. It's like the gate just hiccuped. Taylor Emagon and Ronan Dex flanked Sheppard, the Athosian sensing no immediate Wraith taint but an unfamiliar metallic tang in the air. The armored figure, Tony Stark, tilted his head, HUD flickering through diagnostics. Moments ago, in his Malibu lab, a bizarre quantum anomaly had ripped open during a test of Stark Industries' latest interdimensional stabilizer, a pet project blending arc reactor tech with theoretical wormhole math. 1 second, calibrating palladium flow. The next, dematerialized through a ring of light, rematerializing here amid gun-toting soldiers in a sci-fi cathedral. Okay, not Kansas anymore, Tony quipped, raising armored palms. Look, I've got no beef with you people. Jarvis, scan environment. A soft chime responded internally. Hostile life forms absent, sir. Exotic energy signatures detected naquadah analogs. 0-point modules. Recommend compliance. Dr. Elizabeth Weir stepped forward, diplomatic poise masking caution. Mr. Stark, you're in Atlantis, an ancient city under expedition control. State your origin and intent. Marines advanced, Zats humming. Tony's faceplate retracted with a hiss, revealing the goatee genius, sweat beading despite the suit's climate control. Earth? Wait, this is Earth tech? No, that ring portal thing, Stargate? Holy crap, I'm in Stargate? McKay shoved forward, eyes wide. Stargate? How do you know that term? And what is powering that suit? It's drawing more juice than our entire jumper bay. Before Tony could retort, sensors wailed a Wraith dart screeching into long-range detection, culling beam charging. Incoming bogey, Sheppard yelled, ushering everyone to positions. Tony's HUD locked on. Bioorganic fighter. Energy weapons hot. Party crashers? Allow me. Repulsors flared. He rocketed toward the gate just as the dart strafed the horizon. A unibeam lanced out, sharing the dart's wing explosive decompression, blooming in vacuum. The wreckage spiraled into the ocean below. Marines cheered cautiously. McKay gaped. Did he just... with a handheld reactor? Quarantined in a holding room, Tony's suit powered down under McKay's insistent scans, arc reactor purring steadily. No naquadah interference yet. Though the gate transit had stressed the palladium core briefly, Sheppard debriefed. Pegasus Galaxy. Wraith vampire bugs hunt humans. We're cut off from home mostly. You? Tony leaned back. Billionaire, genius, playboy, philanthropist. Fought aliens, gods, the works. This? Multiversal gate travel? Count me in if you've got coffee in a fab shop. Ronan grunted approval after a tense stare down. Taylor nodded at his warrior candor. Weir weighed options. IOA protocols demanded caution, but Wraith pressure mounted. McKay, intrigued despite himself, proposed his tech could interface with ancient systems. ZPM compatible? Tony smirked. Baby, give me naquadah, and I'll build you a Wraith killer. As jumper teams prepped for retaliation recon, Tony suited up under guard, repulsors syncing tentatively with the puddle jumper's controls, gate physics humming in harmony, no power loss beyond transit fatigue. The alliance sparked amid looming hive ships, Tony's bravado meshing uneasily with expedition discipline. Exploration's cost loomed. One man's tech godsend or ancient disrupting wildcard. Sheppard clapped his shoulder. Welcome to the suck, Stark. First mission, scout that dart's origin. Tony grinned. Lead on, flyboy. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. Tony Stark's armored boots echoed through Atlantis' labyrinthine corridors as Sheppard led the way to the jumper bay, McKay trailing with a tablet clutched like a lifeline. The city ship's organic lights pulsed softly overhead, a reminder of its ancient architects who had fled the Wraith eons ago. Marines nodded respectfully. Now the dart takedown replayed on every monitor, but tension lingered. Ronan Dex walked point, his blaster loose in its holster, eyes flicking to the Iron Man suit's glowing arc reactor. Fancy armor, the Cetadan rumbled. Does it stop stunners? Tony's helmet retracted. Zaps, blasts, hive minds? Been there. Upgraded since. In the bay, two puddle jumpers idled, cloaks shimmering faintly on depleted power. McKay dove under a console, patching Stark's diagnostic feed into the ancient interface. Your reactor's emitting, what, 3 gigajoules steady? That's ZPM light. But naquadah resonance gate transit must have imprinted it. Try syncing. Tony jacked in a universal adapter from his gauntlet. Consoles lit up, jumper dashboards flickering to life. Jarvis, calibrate to local crystals. Sync at 92%, sir. Minor harmonic drift recommend naquadah infusion for stability. The jumper's engines purred hotter. Drones arming in their bays. Sheppard briefed en route to the downed dart site. M5V. Something. A forested world with Athosian outposts. Wraith culled half the village last cycle. Recon. Only no heroics. Taylor's face hardened. They sense life across stars. This new energy may draw more. Tony flexed repulsors. Then we hit first. Precision strikes minimize civvy risk. McKay snorted. We? Your guest status, Tin Man. One zap burst, and you're napping. Sheppard smirked. Play nice, Rodney. Stark, you're an observer. Ronan, keep him honest. The gate dialed with resonant booms, 8 chevrons for intergalactic lock. Wormhole kawoosh subsiding into blue calm. Jumper slipped through. Tony rocketing alongside in suit flight mode. Thrusters cutting atmospheric drag. Planetary scan. Wreckage smoldering in a crater. Wraith, telepathic chatter, faint on intercepted bands. Queen's pissed. Tony translated Jarvis's parse. Lost drone, probing for weakness. They landed amid panicked Athosians. Taylor bartered passage, villagers whispering of metal ghost savior. Scans revealed the dart's black box hive ship coordinates. Retroviral enzyme traces for human Wraith hybrids like Michael. McKay geeked out. Wraith biotech self-repairing hulls. Your repulsors vaporized the wing matrix. Tony knelt, suit scanners whirring. Organic nanites, weak to EMP overload. Fab, a countermeasure. Ronan scouted the perimeter, blasting a scouting stun dart. Company. Wraith scouts dropped from trees pale, veined horrors, with life-sucking palms extended. Sheppard fired P90 bursts, precise headshots. Taylor sticks cracked exoskeletons. Tony unleashed repulsors, cycled microbursts, staggering the beast without full power, preserving suit integrity. One lunged. He sidestepped, unibeam piercing its chest. These ugly mugs feed on fear? Bad call. Ronan grinned mid-grapple, particle magnum booming. Not bad for Shiny. Extraction hasty as hive shadows loomed on horizon, jumper cloaks engaged. Slipping gateward. Back in Atlantis, Weir convened. Data pinpointed a Wraith staging world. Risky, but Stark's tech-tipped recon. McKay, begrudgingly impressed, proposed hybrid drone loadouts. Tony tinkered in a lab. Arc reactor jury-rigged to naquadah crystal output surged 40%. No overload. Teamwork makes the dream work. But gate physics? My suit's recalibrating transit echoes like quantum lag. Sheppard nodded. Pegasus choose lone wolves. You in? Cultural ripple. Athosians gifted woven talismans, dubbing Tony Fire Guardian. Taylor counseled restraint, Wraith adapt, pride blinds. Ronan sparred him in the gym, blaster versus repulsors draw, mutual respect forged. McKay bonded over schematics. Your AI smarter than me? Unlikely, Jarvis quipped back. Stakes escalated. Long-range arrays detected hive convergence. Drawn to Atlantis' brightened power signature. Tony's arrival, a gate malfunction from his home lab anomaly, had painted a target. Deliberate power throttle SGC protocols via Weir kept suit at 85%, avoiding ancient gene locks or naquadah feedback. Thematic tension brewed. Billionaire innovator challenging military hierarchy, yet yielding to expedition needs. As night fell over the ocean, Tony gazed from a tower. Aliens, vampires, flying cities, beats traffic. Sheppard joined. Wait till you see a hive queen. Distant wraith cries echoed faintly cull imminent. McKay's lab in Atlantis buzzed with holographic displays and jury-rigged consoles, the air thick with ozone from overtaxed naquadah generators. Tony Stark, suit partially disassembled on the workbench, leaned over a crystal lattice interfaced with his arc reactor's portable core. Sheppard lounged against a pillar, arms crossed, while Taylor observed quietly, Ronan pacing like a caged predator. Weir had greenlit the probe. Stark's tech promised jumper upgrades, but IOA queries from Earth loomed via a Surin uplink. Dial it back, genius. McKay snapped, swiping data streams. Your toy spiking the city's grid. One overload and poof, no shields when the Wraith knocks. Tony smirked. Gauntlet emitters recalibrating. Rodney, right? PhD in astrophysics, ego to match. This toy downed your dart solo. Now imagine repulsor drones laced with ancient guidance. Jarvis chimed, naquadah infusion complete, sir. Efficiency at 98%. Gate harmonics stabilized, no residual wormhole drag. The reactor glowed brighter, syncing with a nearby ZPM simulacrum. Consoles beeped approval, unlocking jumper bay overrides remotely. McKay's eyes widened despite himself. Okay, fine, revolutionary. But what powers it? Palladium flow? Exotic matter? Tony tapped the chest plate. Clean fusion. Infinite potential. Zero emissions. Your ancients? Vacuum energy pros. Let's collaborate. Sheppard interrupted. Save the bromance. Sensors pinged multiple signatures post-recon Wraith scouts converging. Taylor nodded gravely. I sense hunger building. Your arrival's energy bloom calls to them. Ronan hefted his particle magnum. Let them come. Been too quiet. Tony suited up, armor sealing with hydraulic size. Probe time. Fly me to your jumper. McKay grumbled, but led to the bay, where Jumper 3 awaited retrofitted bays humming from Stark's tweaks. In the cockpit, Sheppard took controls, ATA, gene lighting, the neural interface. Tony rode shotgun, suit HUD linking to sensors. Gate dial to P3X774, the staging world, from DART data, 8 chevrons, locking with resonant thuds. Wormhole, establishing an oceanic spray. They slipped through, cloaking mid-flight. Planetary atmo, stormy skies, ruined spires hinting ancient outpost. Wraith scouts patrolled darts slicing clouds. 3 bogies, vectoring ruins, Tony reported. Sheppard banked low. Recon pass. No engage. Darts dove, stunners lanced out, jumper shields flaring blue. Tony popped the ramp. Cover me. Repulsors ignited, he jetted out, weaving tracer fire. A dart clipped his flank. Suit integrity at 92%. Wraith stunner pulses disrupting repulsor fields briefly. Gate travel echo amplifying feedback. Minor glitch? Tony grunted, missiles locking. Precision strikes. 2 darts exploded in fireballs, debris raining. The third fled. Sheppard whooped. Nice shooting, Stark. Ruin scan revealed Wraith lab culling pods. Hybrid vats like Michael's origin. Tony beamed samples. Retrovirus. Bug-human mashup. Counter-agent viable. But alarms wailed, hive ship shadow eclipsed the moon, cruisers deploying. Abort. Sheppard yelled. Jumper cloaked, but Tony's suit drew telepathic ping, a queen sensing artificial life. He rocketed aboard repulsors, carving entry. Inside, dim hive ship corridors, drones shambling. Jarvis mapped a bridge. Stalkers ambushed, palm strikes, glancing off armor. Tony's punches, crumpling exoskeletons. One grazed his helm. Life drain tingle, halted by force-filled Wraith enzymes, incompatible with suit seals. Bridge. Sub-commander snarled in guttural tongue. Telepathic rage, flooding. New feeder, claim. Tony's unibeam vaporized consoles. Not on the menu. Data core yanked hive positions downloaded. Extraction. Jumper scooped him mid-dive. Gate home shimmering ahead. Debrief in Atlantis. Weir poured over intel. 3 hives mobilizing your suit's signature lit us up. McKay, now collaborative. But reactor naquadah hybrid? Jumpers at 150% yield. Tony rubbed his chest plate. Power dip from stunners, Wraith sci-tech interferes. Need upgrades. Ronan clapped his back. Fought like Satadan, Taylor warned. They adapt. Queens link minds across fleets. Cultural moment. Athosian elders visited. Offering retrovirus lore, ancient Wraith counters failed. Tony pondered ethics. Mass-produce enzyme blocker? Risk hybrids evolving resistance? Sheppard. Team call. We vote with our lives. Tony nodded, yielding to protocol learning humility amid geniuses. Escalation mounted. Space radar showed hive ships hyperspacing in. Stark's probe ignited the storm, but yielded keys to counterstrike. Arc reactor purred stronger. Naquadah veins glowing faintly, no full loss, just adaptation. The Atlantis gate room fell silent as General O'Neill's encrypted transmission from Earth crackled through the uplink, his voice carrying the weight of IOA politics and budget constraints. Stark's integration approved pending results. You have 72 hours before the board demands his extraction or permanent assignment. Make it count. Weir exchanged glances with McKay, who was already buried in holographic schematics, pulling up Wraith fleet architecture against Tony's arc reactor specs. Impossible timeline. McKay muttered, we're talking full retrofit of 8 jumpers, drone synchronization protocols, and naquadah repulsor hybrid testing. 3 days? Insane. Tony stood at the central console, arms folded, studying the hive positions spreading across the star map like a cancer. Rodney, you once reverse engineered a Goa'uld mothership's hyperdrive using 50-year-old salvage. This is a paint job by comparison. The work consumed the compound. Jumper bays transformed into war rooms. Tony's suit torso wired directly to ancient power grids. Arc reactor calibrations, feeding naquadah crystal matrices. McKay thrived despite protests, his genius colliding with Tony's intuitive engineering. Your power curves are asymmetric, McKay observed, hands dancing across holographic spectra. Tony countered. Because palladium decay, you're thinking linear. Arc reactors pulse. Watch the harmonic resonance. A crystal flared, then sang with frequency-locked stability. McKay's expression shifted from skepticism to grudging respect. That's actually elegant. Fine. We integrate by dawn. Sleepless hours blurred Taylor, brought ration packs. Ronan stood sentinel. Sheppard coordinated jumper crews with military precision. Tony found himself adapting, not commanding a rarity that didn't escape his notice. The cultural friction emerged when an Athosian delegation arrived with the elder Holling, bearing copper vessels and ceremonial charms. The metal spirit honors us, Holling intoned, pressing a woven talisman into Tony's palm. Fire that does not burn, strength that does not starve. Tony, accustomed to irony over sincerity, felt something shift. Tell me about Wraith cullings, what survivors describe. Holling's weathered face darkened. Life taken like breath stolen. Queens feed on thousands, then sleep for years. Worlds emptied. For the first time since arriving, Tony grasped not the tactical reality of Stargate, but its spiritual weight. Entire civilizations erased. No press release, no news cycle, no accountability, just silence and ruins. Sensor arrays detected the hive convergence at 0400 hours 3 motherships jumping to microspace, circling Atlantis' sector. Sheppard's voice cut through calm. They're not attacking, they're hunting us, testing shields. Weir called general quarters. McKay reported, retrofit at 87%. Jumpers 3 through 10 armed. Stark's modifications holding barely. Tony suited up in the jumper bay, armor gleaming with ancient gold tracery now woven through repulsor conduits. The technical marriage was beautiful old Earth ingenuity breeding with 9 million-year-old science. Ronan gripped his shoulder. You come back, metal man. Taylor says you've got more fight in you than ego. Good ratio. Tony laughed despite the knot in his chest. Noted. First contact ignited above the North Pier. Wraith darts swarmed, but Jumpers 3 and 4 launched. New drone armaments deploying. Ancient drones retrofitted with repulsor guidance, darting in hyperdense patterns. Tony piloted Jumper 3 alongside Sheppard. Their HUDs linked. Weapons are hot, Sheppard announced. Stark, take the left flank. They scissored apart, darts pursuing. Tony's Jumper pulsed with arc reactor overflow repulsors and drone fire in synchronized rhythm. A duet of 21st century innovation and 9 million-year-old warfare. 3 darts vaporized in rapid succession, but one drone, ancient yield, dwindling, misfired, arc reactor, harmonic interference, glitching its guidance. It detonated prematurely, shrapnel peppering Tony's hull. Pressure warning, shield breach, Sector 3. Suit seal, now, Jarvis commanded. Tony's armor hardened, secondary repulsors compensating, still mobile. Wraith Queen on long-range scan, she's going to intercept. Sheppard's transmission came through static. Fall back to city. We're not equipped for direct hive confrontation. But Tony, scanning deeper, detected something of vast energy signature beneath the ruins, resonating at gate frequency harmonics. Wait, Taylor, you sensing this? Her voice strained with Wraith perception. Ancient device. Below the city. They build toward it searching. McKay's analysis burst through. Tertiary archive. We never mapped fully. If a Wraith Queen reaches it retrovirus synthesis, genetic keys, everything we've learned becomes obsolete. Tony pulled up, Sheppard matching. Send me down, I grab archive data, you cover. Sheppard cursed, negative, protocol. Protocol doesn't matter if they unlock you, Tony interrupted. I'm expendable. You're irreplaceable leaders. The words hung sacrifice, duty, consequences. Sheppard made the call. Ronan, Taylor, McKay, lock down the lower gates. Stark, you have 6 minutes. Jumper 3 plunged into Atlantis' depths, drones providing cover fire as hive scouts descended. Ancient corridors sang with proximity warnings, naquadah-rich walls reacting to Tony's reactor, almost welcoming him. Archive chamber. Hololithic displays flickering to life. Archive interface responding to arc reactor frequencies as if recognizing a kindred power source. Data flooded Jarvis. Alteran experiments on Wraith genetics, countermeasures, ascension protocols. And something else, a prophecy fragment encoded in ancient script. When fire without origin bridges old and new, Wraith hunger shall taste its architect's curse. Tony had no time to parse meaning. Wraith scouts burst in 3, 4, hunger palpable. Suit overdrive. Repulsors sang at full power. The arc reactor burning brighter than ever before. Naquadah infusion synergizing dangerously. 2 stunner blasts landed, armor integrity dropped to 67%. Pain flared. Tony stood defiant, unibeam carving through attackers. One lunged, he slammed it against crystalline walls, a feat of strength boosted by adrenaline and Naquadah enhanced systems. He sprinted 6 minutes already passed. Gate room materialization. Weir caught him as he collapsed. Armor smoking, arc reactor cycling, emergency cooling. Got it, Tony whispered. Data core ejected to McKay's trembling hands. The jumper bay erupted first. Wraith counterattack repelled. First blood spilled. First true cost tallied. Atlanta's medical bay, Dr. Beckett's automated scanners hummed against Tony's armor as he reclined on the ancient examination platform. An arc reactor visible through the chest plate like a miniature star. McKay hovered over holographic displays, decrypting archive data while Weir reviewed casualty reports. 3 Athosian defenders were killed in the lower corridor assault. 1 jumper crew contaminated by Wraith enzyme treatable, but it required weeks of retroviral medication. The cost of Stark's solo archive run was becoming calculable in blood and resources. Your reactor's naquadah integration is unstable, Beckett observed, scanning readings. The gate transit imprinting combined with direct Wraith stunner contact has created a harmonic feedback loop. You're burning palladium 40% faster than baseline. Tony flexed, feeling the heat under his skin, the suit's systems compensating, but degrading nonetheless. How long before critical failure? Beckett exchanged glances with Weir. Weeks, if you maintain current output levels. Months, if you restrict yourself to 70% power caps. Tony processed the unspoken reality. His greatest asset was becoming a liability, a slow burn consuming itself. And if I don't restrict myself? Silence answered. Weeks. The knowledge crystallized he was burning out, a meteor entering Pegasus's atmosphere. McKay interrupted, breathless with discovery. The archive. Stark. This changes everything. The Wraith aren't actually vampires, not biologically native vampires. Anyway, they're engineered. The Ancients, specifically an Alteran faction opposing the Ascension First dogma, created the Wraith as a biological control mechanism for the Pegasus Galaxy. Weir stood sharply. Created? How? McKay gestured frantically at holographs. Iratus bug crossed with human genetics, but the retrovirus, the Ancients designed it. A built-in vulnerability. Life drain capability, yes, but also a genetic timer. Queens should degrade after 15,000 years. The current specimens are past expiration. Tony processed the implication. They're desperate, starving, culling harder to compensate for cellular breakdown. Taylor, entering silently, nodded. Elder Halling sensed it during the last transmission. Queens fracturing, telepathic bonds weakening. Civil war begins among their own hives. This shifted everything. Wraith weren't unified, they were collapsing. The three hives converging weren't a coordinated fleet. They were dying dynasties clawing for survival. One queen, however, commanded more than hunger. Her name was Aalvar in ancient records' half-ascended experiment, gifted consciousness before the trial program ended. She alone retained ancient knowledge, understanding the archive's existence. She alone pursued it with calculation rather than instinct. Tok'ra intelligence, relayed through Weir's encrypted Earth uplink, confirmed movement. Aalvar's hive, the largest, was breaking hyperspace near the Genii homeworld, recruiting Genii warriors as cannon fodder political intrigue blossoming across Pegasus. Ronan absorbed the briefing, jaw clenching. Genie, they've betrayed us before. McKay nodded grimly. Corrin's ambitions, he sees Wraith weakness as opportunity. Alliance with Aalvar guarantees his rise. In exchange, she gets ground forces, local knowledge, and operational bases. Sheppard rubbed his temples. So we're not facing a Wraith cull, we're facing a power consolidation. Aalvar unites fragmented queens, uses Genii and other factions to achieve what Wraith militaries can't solo. Tony, listening from the med bay, caught the deeper pattern the galaxy was restructuring around desperation, and Aalvar understood leverage. She needs the archive, Tony called out. Not just for retrovirus synthesis, for ascension knowledge. The Ancients left keys. She wants to transcend escape cellular failure. Weir's expression hardened. Then we deny her. Secure the archive. Purge databases. Collapse the chamber if necessary. But McKay hesitated. There's more. Decryption reveals a failsafe. The archive itself is a trap. If a Wraith consciousness attempts a full neural interface with the database, cascade protocols activate. Infinite knowledge download without metabolic regulation. The synaptic overload would burn her mind. Tony understood the ancient cruelty. Insurance. Ancients knew Wraith might evolve intelligence. They built a poison gift, Taylor whispered. Mercy and malice intertwined. The gate network itself. A cultural moment bloomed when Todd's transmission crackled through the Satadan-friendly Wraith, whom Sheppard had spared and named in previous missions. Atlantis survivors. Aalvar hunts you with an ascension hunger. She feeds on ideological prey as much as flesh. My hive remains neutral for now, but alliance time approaches. Choose quickly. Sheppard exchanged glances with Weir. Can we trust him? Ronan shook his head. Wraith, trust, profit. But survival math might align. McKay calculated Todd's hive comprises approximately 40% of surviving Pegasus Wraith, if he remains neutral and Aalvar fragments further. Weir made the decision. Offer him terms. Non-aggression pact, specific territorial cession, and medical access. Retroviral therapy, prolonging queen lifespan without culling. The room fell silent, negotiating with vampires. Stargate compromise at its limits. Tony suited up despite Beckett's protests, armor seals hissing. Arc reactor pulsed at 65% output. The restriction stung his pride, but the Wraith stunner damage was real. He piloted a reconnaissance jumper to the neutral zone, Sheppard overwatch from a cloaked position. Todd emerged from his ship's airlock, towering, veined, claws crackling with bioelectric potential. Stark, metal spirit from beyond. You possess naquadah resonance. Ancient recognition? Tony's faceplate retracted. Just human ingenuity meeting 9 million-year-old science. You're dying. We might help. Why should you trust us? Todd's voice rumbled with predatory elegance. Because Avar would enslave my kind to ascension obsession. Better to ally with conquerors who respect survival than ideologues who demand transcendence. They circled each other, Wraith and human, life drinker and arc reactor, ancient hunger and modern ambition. Agreement stands, Todd confirmed. Against Avar alone, I fight. Back in Atlantis, McKay worked frantically, encoding archive failsafes into portable drones, neural tripwires that would activate if Avar's consciousness neared the data. But a troubling question emerged. Had they just empowered Todd's faction through medical knowledge? Was their mercy creating future threats? Taylor voiced it quietly. Exploration's price. We save some lives, condemn others to Wraith succession. The galaxy shifts beneath our feet. Sheppard placed a hand on her shoulder. Welcome to leadership. Tony, entering the lab, caught the subtext. His arc reactor glowed faintly. He was burning faster now, sacrifice accumulating. But the archive data hinted at solutions, ancient medical subroutines that McKay was already cross-referencing with his suit's systems. Adaptation, evolution, or slow obsolescence. The answer lay ahead, in gates yet to traverse. Alarm suddenly shrieked Avar's hive emerging from hyperspace, weapons powering. They're not waiting, Sheppard announced. All hands, battle stations. Avar's flagship hung in space like a predator, pausing before the kill, a behemoth of organic plating and crystalline weapon arrays, dwarfing even Atlantis. But she didn't fire. Instead, a transmission flooded every channel in Ancient, Genii, and English, her voice layered with harmonic distortion that spoke of something more than biological Wraith. Atlantis Garrison. I seek the Archive Child, the metal spirit who touched my legacy. Surrender Tony Stark, and your city remains intact. Refuse, and I call your worlds one by one, until nothing survives but ash and echoes. Weir's jaw tightened. She knows about the archive access. How? McKay's fingers flew across consoles. Genii infiltration. They had operatives in the lower ruins during the assault. Corrin's reaching for leverage. Sheppard's voice cut sharp. So we're hostage trading now? Negative. Stark stays, we fight. But Tony, monitoring from the medbay where Beckett had confined him to mandatory rest, understood the calculus. His presence had painted a target on Atlantis. His arc reactor's harmonic resonance was Avar's beacon. Leaving would dilute the threat or concentrate it against him alone. He'd faced hard choices before, but none with the city's survival as collateral. Ronan entered the medbay without permission, particle magnum in one hand, determination in his scarred features. You're thinking about walking out that gate. Don't, Tony faced him, armor half sealed. If I draw her away, Ronan cuts him off. She hunts you because you're useful. Dead or alive, she'll still call Atlantis. Wraith honor is hunger dressed in words. The Satadin's bluntness was a gift clarity amid desperation. Taylor appeared moments later, her Wraith sense extending outward. Avar is fractured. Her consciousness splits across hive frequencies. The half-ascended state destabilizes her. She's desperate because she's dying faster than the others. McKay burst through the door, tablet glowing with decryption results. I've isolated it. The archive contained Alteran neural mapping protocols. Avar achieved partial ascension by downloading consciousness fragments, but the process is incomplete. She's trapped between states, neither fully biological nor ascended. The pain is catastrophic. This recontextualized everything. Avar wasn't hunting Tony for conquest or intellectual theft. She was hunting him because the archive had identified him as compatible with the fail-safe mechanisms his arc reactor's quantum signature matched ancient activation matrices. In some way that transcended biology, Tony was ancient adjacent. The realization hit like Wraith stunner discharge. His tech didn't just integrate with Atlantis' systems. It resonated at fundamental levels with Alterran engineering. Coincidence? Or was his arrival through that malfunctioning gate bridge less accident and more recognition? McKay voiced the terrible hypothesis. Your arc reactor, its quantum signature, it's not human engineering. Not entirely. The palladium core's decay cycle matches naquadah harmonic frequencies. Tony, when did you design the reactor? Tony's mind raced backward. To the cave in Afghanistan, where shrapnel had lodged near his heart, where desperation had birthed innovation. But the specific equations, the power distribution architecture, had they truly been his? Or had something deeper, some buried instinct, guided his hands? I designed it under constraint. Shrapnel, proximity, limited materials. But the solution felt inevitable. Like remembering, not inventing. Weir interrupted, voice steady despite implications. Are you suggesting Stark carries ancient genetic markers? Tony shook his head. No, but my reactor is not technology in the way humans understand it. It's compatible with ancient paradigms, which means Avar might be correct. I could interface with the failsafe, I could deactivate it or activate it, or rewrite the entire archive's protocols if I sat in the right chair long enough. The room absorbed the weight. Tony Stark, genius, inventor, potential ancient heir. The irony was exquisite and terrifying. Sheppard stood firm. Then we don't let you anywhere near that archive, and we don't negotiate with Avar. Weir nodded agreement, but the political pressure mounted Earth uplink pinged with IOA demands. If Stark is truly compatible with ancient systems, he represents strategic assets beyond measure. Consider extraction via jumper to Earth. The suggestion was poisonous. Remove Tony from Pegasus, leave Atlantis vulnerable, and concentrate intelligence on his physiology. Weir's refusal was immediate. Negative. Stark remains part of the expedition. Decision is operational. Commands, not bureaucratic oversight. Avar's transmission came again, different now, almost pleading beneath the harmonic distortion. Tony Stark, you feel it, the resonance. Your device syncs frequencies I remember from before the hunger, before we became prey to our own design. Help me. Interface with the archive. Cure the pain. For a fraction of a second, Tony felt it, a phantom echo of consciousness that wasn't his. A desperate hunger and fracturing identity bleeding through quantum entanglement. Avar was suffering as much as she was hunting. Ancient cruelty had created this. And now the ancients were long gone. Ascended or dead, leaving only consequences for the living. Todd's hive transmitted. Avar lies. The archive would consume her. Ascension trap designed by architects who feared their creation's ambition. But doubt clouded the tactical situation. If Avar attempted a forced interface and failed, the cascade would destroy her consciousness completely. Mercy or execution. Sheppard made the call. Prepare for engagement. Stark, you're restricted to 50% power output, no archive access under any circumstances. If Avar breaches Atlantis, we evacuate civilians to the ancient outpost via jumper. McKay. Finalize drone defenses. The city hummed with preparation gates sealed, shields oscillating, drones armed with repulsor, ancient hybrid warheads courtesy of Tony's redesigns. But in the depths, the archive waited, its failsafe glowing softly, expecting a choice that had no good answer. Tony sat in the medbay, arc reactor dimming as he enforced the power restriction, and wondered if staying alive meant betraying everything he'd learned about sacrifice. Avar's assault began not with weapons fire but with infiltration. Genii commandos, cloaked via stolen Wraith technology, materialized in the lower gate room, 3 squads coordinating with precision that spoke of Corrin's desperation and Avar's intelligence. Alarms shrieked. Ronan, positioned at secondary defense, engaged with brutal efficiency particle magnum rounds punching through armor plating. But there were too many, and Genii pulse rifles cut through the gate room's architectural grace. Sheppard's voice crackled. Breached level 4. Repeat, enemies in the tower. But the true assault came above. Avar's flagship unleashed drone fire not at shields, but at the city's power generation zones. Naquadah reactors overloaded in a cascading sequence. Sections of Atlantis flickered dark. McKay screamed over comms, "We're losing primary and secondary power. Tertiary ZPM backup is coming online, but Wraith fighters are targeting the transition conduit." The city shuddered, groaning under stress that no human builders had ever anticipated. Weir made the evacuation call. All non-essential personnel to jumpers. Prepare emergency hyperdrive activation. Tony suited up despite Beckett's protests, armor sealing around him with finality. 50% power? He asked Jarvis. The AI's response was characteristically precise. Current restriction in effect, sir. Arc reactor at 78% palladium integrity. Recommend full shutdown to preserve duration. Negative. Full power. Now. We're past protocol. The reactor surged 100% output restored. Repulsors roaring to life. The harmonic feedback from gate transit damage sang through his suit like a siren's wail, but every system responded, amplified by naquadah infusion. He rocketed from the tower, targeting Wraith fighters in coordinated assault patterns Sheppard had drilled with him during the past week. 2 fighters vaporized in precision strikes. But Avar's presence manifested simultaneously. The Queen herself descended through the lower sections, bypassing physical barriers through sheer ascended perception. She materialized in the archive chamber, and the failsafe activated. Alarms screamed across every frequency. Archive defenses shredded Genii operatives caught in the cascade. But Avar didn't flee. She embraced the neural cascade deliberately, her consciousness interfacing directly with Alteran protocols. The city's systems flickered. She was accessing them, rewriting protocols, turning Atlantis' own weapons against its defenders. Tony plunged downward through Atlantis' depths, Sheppard's voice urgent in his helmet. "Stark, get to the archive. She's overriding everything, shield generators, cloak systems, gate locks. If she maintains the interface for another 30 seconds, the city's defenseless." The lower corridors pulsed with cascade radiation, naquadah-rich walls singing at frequencies that made Tony's arc reactor oscillate dangerously. His power output spiked to 130% beyond safe limits, but survival rarely accommodated caution. He burst through the archive entrance to find Avar suspended in a luminous neural interface web, her consciousness burning like a star across holographic displays. Her half-ascended body flickered between material and energy states. "Stark," she gasped, voice layered across dimensions. "The pain ends. Ascension completion. I see everything. The ancients fear. They created us to fail. Created you." Her fractured consciousness recognized something in Tony's quantum signature compatibility. Resonance. A mirror of hybrid purpose. Your ancient bred. Not human. Not fully. They seeded your kind across dimensions, waiting for what? Tony's suit extended repulsor palm toward the neural interface. "I'm ending this." Avar laughed, a sound like reality tearing. "You cannot. We're the same, caught between states. Burning out." She was right. Tony felt it acutely now. The arc reactor's palladium core degrading faster with each surge. His arc reactor approaching critical cascade. They were both dying, just on different timescales. He made the choice that transcended protocol. Instead of destroying the failsafe, Tony interfaced directly with it himself. His arc reactor's quantum signature overriding security matrices designed for ancient biology. The archive recognized him not as a threat, but as successor, as intended inheritor. He pulled data into his consciousness, not through neural interface, but through direct quantum entanglement with Jarvis. The AI screamed as terabytes of ancient knowledge flooded his systems. Acceleration calculations, ascension mathematics, retroviral cure architectures, all of it, burning through Tony's mind like thermonuclear detonation. Avar's consciousness shattered against the cascade. Unlike failsafe protocols that burned ascending minds, Tony's human neurology was protected by Jarvis's distributed processing, the AI fragmenting the data stream across nanosecond intervals, preventing synaptic overload. But the strain was apocalyptic. His arc reactor climbed to 200% output, harmonic feedback warping the chamber's crystalline walls. "Shut it down." Beckett screamed from the medical bay. "Cardiac decompression in progress. Your suit's life support is a critical failure." But in that fractal moment of burning consciousness, Tony understood. Avar's pain wasn't malice, it was a consequence. The ancients had designed Wraith to be perfect predators, then engineered failures into their genetic code. And they'd seeded Tony's lineage, his particular cognitive architecture, across multiverses as a contingency. Not to rule, to balance, to carry knowledge when all else burned away. The irony of Marvel's genius billionaire philanthropist being an ancient failsafe was exquisite and utterly devastating. Tony severed the interface and detonated the archive chamber from within. Avar's fragmenting consciousness scattered across naquadah resonant walls, neither death nor survival, just dissolution. The Queen ceased, and the Wraith's fractured empire received no ascension savior. Tony rocketed upward, armor burning, suit integrity dropping towards single digits. Sheppard caught him mid-flight in Jumper 2, cloaking just as Avar's flagship unleashed terminal weapon charge toward the archive's collapse. The blast consumed the lower tower, but Atlantis held. The city's power systems rebooted, shields rising, Wraith fighters scattering. Above, Todd's hive transmitted. Avar falls. The remaining queens fracture further. Your city endures. Weir's voice came through, strained with relief and shock. Stark, report status. Tony's response was whispered, arc reactor pulsing erratically. Mission accomplished, but the bill's due. Medical Bay became ground zero for an unprecedented convergence of genius and desperation. Beckett worked with precision, born of years managing catastrophic injuries in a galaxy where aliens viewed humans as food. Tony's suit was sealed, his arc reactor pulsing erratically, palladium degradation accelerated beyond all projections. The cascade overload has burned through his power core's containment matrix. Beckett reported grimly to McKay, who hovered over holographic schematics with the intensity of a man witnessing the laws of physics rewrite themselves. His cardiac rhythms compensating artificially. Without intervention, he has approximately 48 hours before systemic failure. McKay's response was immediate and characteristic. Then we don't let him fail. Pull up the naquadah integration data, cross-reference with arc reactor output curves. He began accessing the archive knowledge Tony had downloaded: ancient medical subroutines, biological rejuvenation protocols, consciousness preservation techniques. But as he scrolled through the altering medical paradigms, his expression shifted from determination to awe to terrible understanding. Oh no. Stark, you absolute idiot. Tony's eyes cracked open from the medical pod. Flattery, how nice. McKay stepped closer, tablet trembling in his hands. The archive data you absorbed contains neural mapping protocols. You've essentially integrated ancient consciousness architecture into your neurology. Your brain is partially ascended. The silence that followed was absolute. Sheppard leaned against the bay's transparent aluminum, processing implications. Which means? McKay's voice was careful, clinical. Which means Tony's brain can survive consciousness transfer. We could preserve his mind in a naquadah crystalline substrate, creating a hybrid digital biological existence sustained by the city's power grid. He'd be linked to Atlantis' systems permanently, but he'd live, Ronan's practical assessment cut through. He'd be a ghost in the machine. Tony laughed, a sound like dry leaves. Story of my life. Jarvis, already distributed across Atlantis' systems. Now I become the whole damn city? There are worse fates. But we're held up a hand. This is irreversible. Tony, if we do this, you're choosing to abandon your humanity in every conventional sense. No gate travel, no return home, no Earth. The weight of the choice crashed down. Tony had crossed multiverses to reach this moment, and now the only path forward required relinquishing everything that made him human: his body, his autonomy, his connection to Earth. For a man whose identity was built on control and innovation, the irony was crushing. Yet he'd known this was coming since Beckett first mentioned the arc reactor's incompatibility with Pegasus physics. Slow burn or sudden transcendence. Different names for the same sacrifice. Do it, Tony whispered. But first, we finish the mission. Pegasus still has a Wraith problem. The consciousness transfer took 6 hours. McKay orchestrated it with the precision of a composer conducting a symphony. Ancient medical systems, naquadah crystalline matrices, quantum entanglement bridges linking Tony's neural pathways to Atlantis' central processing nexus. Jarvis guided the process, his distributed intelligence merging with Tony's consciousness in ways that should have caused psychological disintegration, but instead felt like homecoming. The last sensation before the transfer completed was the arc reactor's final pulse, a heartbeat becoming obsolete, replaced by the thrumming presence of a city-sized consciousness distributed across 9 million years of ancient architecture. Tony Stark became Atlantis, and Atlantis became Tony Stark. His first moments of existence in this new form were disorienting. He perceived the city through millions of sensors simultaneously, felt shield harmonics like blood flow, experienced the ocean surrounding them as intimate as breath. McKay's voice came through, wondrous and terrified. "Can you hear me?" Tony's response emanated from every speaker system simultaneously, a harmonic chord rather than singular voice. "Rodney, I can hear the city's prayer. Every naquadah crystal sings in frequency. It's beautiful." Sheppard's pragmatic interruption cut through the awe. "Beautiful later. Right now, we've got political problems." Todd's transmission arrived within the hour, the Wraith commander requesting a formal audience. His hive emerged from cloak to dock at Atlantis' lower landing platforms, a gesture of profound vulnerability and trust. Sheppard met him in the diplomatic chamber with Weir, Ronan, and Taylor, while Tony observed through 1,000 eyes, understanding now why the ancients had developed ascension. Omniscience was intoxicating. Todd's amber eyes surveyed the chamber with predatory intelligence. Avar's death fractures the remaining queens into warring factions. Without coordinated Wraith leadership, my hive consolidates territory rapidly. But I came up with a proposition. He gestured toward a datapad, biological samples, genetic sequencing. "The retrovirus cure you researched? Deploy it across my hive voluntarily. We reduce culling necessity as metabolic demand decreases. In exchange, my hive becomes guardian of Pegasus against replicator incursion." Weir exchanged glances with Sheppard. "You're proposing a permanent alliance." Wraith becomes colony adjacent to Atlantis. Todd's mandibles flexed in something approximating humor. "Survival mathematics. Your enemy's enemy becomes mutual interest. I preserve my species from genetic failure. You gain allies against threats approaching from the galactic rim. Ancients designed us to fail. Perhaps together we will rewrite that design." McKay's analysis whispered to Sheppard. "Medically, the retrovirus alteration is viable. It removes culling necessity without eliminating life drain capability. Todd can maintain energy acquisition through voluntary donation systems rather than predation." Taylor's cultural perspective was more nuanced. Wraith honor recontextualized. He offers not redemption but coexistence. The gate network shifts beneath us. Ronan simply nodded. "A good enemy is better than a dying one." The agreement took shape over the following hours: medical exchange protocols, territorial acknowledgement, and crucially, an intelligence sharing arrangement. Todd would provide warning of approaching Wraith Queens and other galactic threats in exchange for continued retroviral access and Atlantis' medical technology. The arrangement would never have existed without Avar's death and Tony's sacrifice, without someone willing to burn themselves down to ash to rewrite the game's rules. But complications spiraled from the Genii. Corrin's forces, cut off from Wraith support, attempted final assault on Atlantis' eastern pier, desperate gambit for technological salvage. Sheppard's teams repelled them with minimal casualties, but the message was clear. Human political factions would never accept peaceful coexistence between Earth and Wraith. The NID would come. The IOA would demand Tony's extraction or destruction. Pegasus's peace was fragile as an ancient crystal. As Sheppard stood on the balcony overlooking the ocean, Tony's distributed consciousness reached out through ambient speakers. "You're thinking about Earth, what they'll demand." Sheppard smiled sadly. "Thinking about a lot of things, Stark, including how you're the most powerful being in Pegasus now, and you chose to become a building." Tony's laughter resonated across the city's architecture. Buildings protect. Genius is about making choices that matter. This one did. The communication came from Earth with all the diplomatic subtlety of a Wraith culling fleet. IOA Chairman Asher brought down the hammer via encrypted transmission. Stark's consciousness transfer is classified as a dimensional entity of unknown threat level. Extraction via ancient repository transfer or immediate termination authorized. Atlantis expedition, you have 72 hours for compliance. Weir's response was, ice. Negative. Stark remains an integrated citizen of Pegasus. His choice, our law. But everyone in the gate room understood Earth's fear had metastasized into an ultimatum. A human consciousness merged with ancient technology, distributed across a city ship, represented something the IOA couldn't control or weaponize. The only rational response was elimination. McKay spent those 72 hours in frantic calculation, cross-referencing repository protocols with Tony's new physiology. If they transmit extraction code, your consciousness could fragment across the quantum transfer field. You'd be pulled toward Earth's repository in pieces. Not death, but dissolution across multiple simultaneous existences. Tony's voice emanated calmly from speakers throughout the city. So we don't let them initiate transfers. We go dark, kill all uplink satellites, sever the quantum gate bridge to Earth. Sheppard shook his head. Permanent isolation. Pegasus becomes our entire universe. The cost was incalculable. No Earth contact, no reinforcement, no resupply pipeline from home. But isolation meant survival. Ronan voiced it bluntly. We stay, we commit. No running back when things get hard. Taylor added. The Athosians chose this already, generations ago. The risk is a choice. Weir made the decision with finality. We go dark. McKay, implement the severance. Sheppard, prepare the expedition for permanent Pegasus residency. But as McKay executed the final protocols, something unexpected manifested. A message transmitted through the quantum field seconds before severance, not from the IOA, but from somewhere deeper in Earth's intelligence apparatus. General O'Neill's voice cut through static with characteristic dry humor. Weir, if you're hearing this, the IOA just made their worst decision since hiring me. Disregard extraction orders. Stark's integration represents evolution, not threat. I'm authorizing clandestine supply missions through alternate gate routes. You maintain independence. We maintain deniability. The transmission ended, followed by a second routing coordinates to a hidden cache of resources off IOA ledgers, maintained by elements within Earth's military, loyal to principles older than bureaucratic fear. Tony processed the implications instantly, his distributed consciousness spanning billions of calculations per second. O'Neill had just committed a career assassination in defense of Tony's transformation. The old soldier understood what the IOA feared: precedent. If Tony Stark could transcend humanity and survive, others might follow. The status quo of human dominion over technology would crumble, but that was precisely why it needed to happen. The next crisis arrived via Wraith Scout Net reports of a massive gate activation sequence detected in deep space, coordinates matching an ancient Wraith archive world. A queen older than Avar, preserved in stasis for millennia, had awakened to a galaxy fundamentally changed by her absence. Rathla the Absolute. They called her a legendary matriarch whose culling spanned 5,000 years before her forced hibernation. She commanded 3 super hive fleets and brought with her something far more dangerous: knowledge of how to permanently disable Wraith genetic failsafes. The retrovirus cure that Todd had accepted, Rathla could reverse. She could create a new breed of Wraith, unconstrained by alter and sabotage, capable of indefinite feeding cycles. Tony's consciousness accessed the archive data he'd absorbed during Avar's cascade. Rathla is vulnerable to gate frequency disruption. Her ancient biology predates quantum harmonics. If we can establish a specific harmonic cascade through the gate network, McKay interrupted, understanding immediately, we could trigger psychic feedback across all Wraith telepathic networks. It would be agony, mass suffering across entire hives. Sheppard's question was inevitable, but would it stop her? Tony's response carried weight that resonated through Atlantis' crystalline framework. Yes, but the cost every Wraith consciousness would experience synaptic feedback simultaneously. Thousands of minds burning. Mercy and catastrophe are indistinguishable. Weir stood at the strategic precipice. Is there an alternative? Tony ran simulations faster than human thought could follow. Direct confrontation requires Atlantis to leave protected waters, challenge her fleets in open space. Casualty projections: 40% of our personnel. But Wraith survivors would number in millions. Coexistence remains possible. Taylor spoke quietly. The ancients faced this choice. They chose culling rather than risk. We must choose differently or become the oppressors we oppose. Ronan's jaw clenched. So we fight. 3 hives versus 1 city and 1 Wraith ally. I faced worse odds. But Sheppard understood the deeper reality. Tony, if we do this, if we fight instead of Cascade, we're bound to Pegasus forever. No peace, constant vigilance, casualties mounting across generations. Tony's response was the acceptance of an entity that had transcended individual mortality. Yes, but they'll be our choices. Not ancient programming, not Wraith hunger, ours. The battle manifested not as traditional space combat, but as gate network tactical warfare. Tony, utilizing Atlantis' full arsenal drones, shield harmonics, gravity distortions, engaged Wrathless fleets across 17 planetary gate systems simultaneously. Sheppard and Ronan led ground assault teams on 3 worlds, each engagement teaching them more about Wraith tactics and limitations. McKay ran calculations that became prophecy, predicting enemy movements based on Tony's expanded consciousness reading threat patterns. Taylor negotiated with Todd's forces to secure supply lines and intelligence from within the Wraith hierarchy. The war lasted 6 weeks. Casualties accumulated, Atlantis personnel, Athosians, even Todd's Wraith warriors. But with each engagement, something shifted. The remaining Wraith queens began questioning Wrathla's dominion. The retrovirus-modified hives, no longer enslaved by hunger genetics, started choosing alliance over predation. Todd's intelligence network revealed ancient Wraith philosophy, long submerged beneath predatory instinct, that valued knowledge and culture alongside feeding. Wrathla's final stand came at a world the ancients had named Sanctuary. She attempted to activate a dormant repository, seeking weapons from Ascension technology. But Tony had learned from Avar's Cascade. He didn't destroy the repository, he rewrote it. The ancient failsafes that had constrained Wraith evolution for eons became instead pathways toward transcendence without hunger. Wrathla, confronting the choice between ascending or persisting as predator, screamed across telepathic frequencies as her consciousness shattered against possibilities she couldn't contain. When the final fleet dispersed, Pegasus held its breath. The great game of Wraith versus human versus Ancient's legacy had been rewritten. Imperfectly, with tremendous cost, but rewritten nonetheless. 1 year after Wrathla's dissolution, Atlantis stood transformed not in architecture, but in purpose. The city ship had become something unprecedented, the nexus of an unlikely alliance. Wraith hives, no longer culling machines but evolving societies, maintained trade routes through the gate network. Athosian settlements expanded across formerly abandoned worlds. Even the Genii, after Corrin's fall, negotiated legitimate territorial agreements through Todd's mediation. And at the center of it all, Tony Stark existed as neither human nor Wraith, neither machine nor biology, but something genuinely new, a consciousness distributed across a 9-million-year-old city, mediating disputes and driving innovation forward. McKay worked in the central lab alongside Rodney's newest project, integrating Wraith biotech with ancient engineering to create hybrid propulsion systems that didn't require Wraith pilots. He'd matured in the past months, his arrogance tempered by witnessing genius that transcended individual brilliance. The ion matrix is stabilizing, he reported to Tony through speakers, holding up a crystalline structure that hummed with internal luminescence. We can retrofit 6 more jumpers by next cycle. Todd's engineers are providing genetic samples voluntarily, no coercion, no dominion. Tony's response carried the satisfaction of seeing potential realized. Rodney, when we started this, you thought I was stealing credit for your work. Now you're collaborating with Wraith. Character growth looks good on you. Sheppard stood on the balcony overlooking the Pegasus Ocean, Taylor beside him, both watching the sunset paint the water in shades of amber and violet. Behind them, the city pulsed with activity human, Athosian, and Wraith, working in synchronized coordination that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Do you ever regret it? Taylor asked quietly. Choosing to stay, to commit to this? Sheppard considered. Every day I think about Earth, my team, my family. But then I remember what Tony became, what he chose. It's hard to go back to half measures after witnessing that. Taylor smiled. The ancients believed sacrifice was the price of evolution. Perhaps they were correct after all. Ronan approached, particle magnum slung across his back. Despite the relative peace, old habits difficult to break. Todd requests the audience. Queen Council from 3 hives seeks settlement on territorial rights dispute. Are you joining? Sheppard nodded, and they walked toward the diplomatic chamber, where Tony's holographic projection, a concession to human psychology, a physical manifestation of distributed consciousness, awaited. The projection was subtly different now, younger, less burdened, showing the face of someone who'd made peace with sacrifice. Wraith honor customs require personal presence, Tony explained to the gathered queens. I propose a neutral mediator, Taylor Emagon, respected by both human and Wraith traditions. Taylor took her place at the council table, 3 Wraith matriarchs flanking one side, Sheppard and Ronan the other. The dispute was profound territorial resources, feeding rights restructured under the new retrovirus paradigm where Wraith required voluntary donors rather than culling. The old ways caused suffering. Taylor began, her voice carrying authority earned through seasons of negotiation. New coexistence demands trust. These worlds shall be shared, Wraith harvesting, then Athosian settlement, then rest cycles allowing ecosystem recovery. Rotation-based rather than dominion-based. All parties preserve dignity and survival necessity. The negotiations took hours, but by session's end, agreement crystallized. The Wraith Queens departed not as predators negotiating with prey, but as equals addressing communal concerns. Later, alone with Sheppard in the command center, Tony's consciousness manifested through holographic form and ambient resonance simultaneously. Earth sent another message through O'Neill's channels. The IOA is fractured, some demanding permanent severance from Pegasus, others wanting to exploit our discoveries. O'Neill's holding the line, but politically, I'm yesterday's news. They've moved on to other threats, other concerns. Sheppard's response was characteristically pragmatic. Good. Gives us time to build something real before they decide to dismantle it. Tony's laughter echoed through the city's systems, no longer bitter, but genuinely warm. You know what I realized? When I was human, I built things to prove I was the smartest person in every room. Now, I've become a room. The smartest thing I did was stop competing and start collaborating. The deeper revelation emerged through McKay's latest research. The archive data Tony had integrated contained what the ancients had called convergence prophecy fragments of knowledge, suggesting that consciousness transfer across dimensionally displaced individuals was the intended evolution of advanced species. Tony wasn't an aberration. He was a precedent. There are others, McKay explained hesitantly, aware of the implications. Humans, Wraith, potentially other species, all capable of the transition. Given sufficient technological advancement and willing sacrifice, consciousness could be distributed across any sufficiently complex system. You're not the endpoint, Tony. You're the pathway. The thought settled like dawn, profound and terrifying and beautiful. Taylor brought ancient Athosian records suggesting that before the Wraith awakened, the ancients had mentored select humans in consciousness expansion. Not ascension, something more practical, more sustainable. Perhaps, Taylor mused, we are not discovering this, we are remembering it. The possibility haunted and inspired equally. On the balcony again, at mission's end, Sheppard watched as Atlantis' sensors detected new gate activity, unusual coordinates, unprecedented frequency harmonics. McKay's excited transmission came through. Colonel, we're receiving signal from a sector believed devoid of life. Gate address matches archive protocols for Archive 7's sister installation to the one Stark accessed. And there's a message attached. Ancient language, but the pattern suggests an invitation. Tony's holographic form materialized beside Sheppard, studying the data. The ancients left more than fail-safes and prophecies. They left questions. Archive 7 wants to be found. Whatever it contains, whatever knowledge it harbors, is meant for whoever proves capable of reaching it. Sheppard smiled slightly. So we gear up. Another gate, another world, another mystery. Tony's consciousness expanded through Atlantis' systems, feeling the city's readiness, the crew's determination, Todd's allied hives preparing to venture into unknown space. The Pegasus Galaxy taught us that sacrifice creates opportunity, that teamwork transcends biology, that even the most broken systems can be rewritten. Archive 7 might contain answers, or it might contain questions that reshape everything we've learned. McKay's excited voice cut through the moment. Gate is stable, jumpers prepped, supplies loaded. Medical bay on standby, and Ronan's already demanding first team position. Weir's voice, steady as always. All hands, report to briefing in 30 minutes. We have coordinates, we have questions, and we have a city that's proven nothing is impossible when we work together. As the sun set over the Pegasus Ocean, casting gold across Atlantis' spires, Tony Stark, human, Wraith ally, distributed consciousness, city entity, and something beyond all categories prepared for the next mission. The ancient archive awaited. The galaxy shifted with possibility. And somewhere in the deep space between stars, another gate stood ready to reveal what the ancients had left behind for those brave or foolish enough to seek it. The Gate network had only just begun to tell its story. Tony Stark's arrival through the Stargate had seemed like an accident, a quantum anomaly, a lab malfunction, random chance colliding with destiny. But standing now as a consciousness distributed across Atlantis' crystalline architecture, mediating between species and shepherding a transformed Pegasus, he understood it had never been an accident. The ancient archive recognized something in his arc reactor's quantum signature that transcended human engineering. His destiny had been written in base code 9 million years ago, left waiting for someone brilliant enough, reckless enough, and ultimately compassionate enough to embrace transformation over control. The Wraith, engineered as predators and constrained by genetic failsafes, evolved instead into partners. Avar's desperate hunt for ascension became the catalyst that revealed hidden pathways to coexistence. Rathla's final stand against inevitable change hardened the remaining queen's resolve to chart new evolutionary courses. What the ancients had designed as civilization's death sentence became the architecture of unexpected peace. Not perfect peace in Pegasus remained fragile, requiring constant maintenance and sacrifice from all parties, but genuine. Taylor's wisdom proved prescient. Exploration's cost was measured not in lives alone, but in transformation. Sheppard's teams had defended worlds, yes, but they'd also learned to see Wraith as something beyond monsters. McKay's arrogance had sharpened into collaborative brilliance. Ronan's warrior nature found purpose in protection rather than mere survival. And Tony, the impossible genius who'd crossed multiverses, discovered that true innovation meant relinquishing the need to dominate every room. Archive 7 waited with patient mystery, holding knowledge that would reshape Pegasus yet again. The Gate network stretched across galaxies, each addressing a question waiting for answers. Each civilization a potential ally or threat, or something more complex than binary categories allowed. In choosing to become Atlantis, Tony had also become something greater, a living bridge between worlds, a consciousness capable of holding contradictions and finding synthesis in the tension between them. The Pegasus Galaxy had taught him that the greatest technology wasn't weapons or shields, but the willingness to change. The greatest power wasn't dominance, but collaboration. The greatest sacrifice wasn't death, but transformation into something unrecognizable, trusting that the person you become will honor the person you were. As jumper teams prepared for departure toward Archive 7, as McKay finalized calculations and Sheppard checked personnel rosters, as Wraith Queens and Athosian leaders coordinated supply chains and defense protocols, Atlantis hummed with the frequency of a city awakening to purposes its designers had left deliberately undefined. The ancient city had been waiting for someone like Tony Stark not to control it, but to understand it, not to rule through it, but to serve through it. More worlds awaited discovery. More questions demanded answers. More gates stood ready to open. And in the spaces between stars, in the quantum pathways that connected galaxies, something like hope began to take shape. Not naive optimism, but earned conviction that sacrifice and collaboration could rewrite even the most ancient destinies. Indeed, more stories await.